We've all heard of the Greys, little spacemen, you know, big buggy eyes, kind of bulbous head, gray. But where'd they come from?
We're going to delve into that today on the show.
Good morning, scallywags. How we doing today? Happy Tuesday to you.
Another day closer to Halloween.
Yes, and as we've been doing this month, we're telling creepy, true stories for the month of October.
I suggested we follow up our 13 weeks of horror, and he shot that down like a duck over a pond.
No more 13 weeks of anything. That was just too long, too much.
You mean we can't do 13 weeks of the cryptids around the world?
And nothing's ever happened in Delaware. But today we're telling the story of Betty and Barney Hill, a couple that back in 1961, I believe it was it 61? Early 60s.
Yep.
They claimed to be abducted by aliens.
Aliens? Where?
No, and this was only the second case that's ever been actually, you know,
slightly more credible than the very first one, which was I got abducted by aliens and had sex with beautiful women.
Blonde woman alien that had sex with me.
You had a drug-induced high that allowed you to hallucinate that.
Yeah. But it's in the article we're taking this from. Instead of doing like we've been doing, where we kind of just give the facts, this is actually coming from Cracked.com. The author of this particular article is David Wong, and the title of the article is "The Creepiest True Story I've Ever Heard."
Yep.
Now he approaches this story from a very skeptical point of view. And that's kind of why we like it. Also, it just kind of hits the major highlights of it, where if we went to the Wikipedia page or something like that, it was one of the biggest freaking articles I've ever seen.
I was going to interject some of the transcript from Nova back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But it's really confusing. It's like they'll have Betty Hill says this, and then Carl Sagan, and commercial break, and then Carl Sagan, and Betty Hill, and Carl Sagan, and somebody else, and the doctor of... you can't follow it. Yeah. It makes no sense.
Without doing voices. I mean, you do all the characters yourself.
I could.
And this is my Carl Sagan voice. And now I'm Betty Hill. But, so basically he kind of starts saying the creepiest true story that I've ever heard is the abduction of Betty and Barney Hill. Not because of what happened that night, but because of what happened afterward. Now, this is kind of where the whole alien abduction, the Greys, all sorts of different things that we're now, you know, commonplace when it comes to UFOs and aliens.
If alien abduction can be said commonplace.
Yeah, right. This is actually where that all started.
Yeah.
So,
the best quote I've got from Barney Hill is when he was under hypnosis, and I did read this in the transcript, was, "Oh, those eyes, they're in my brain. I was told to close my eyes because I saw two eyes coming close to mine, and I felt like the eyes had pushed into my eyes. All I see are these eyes. I'm not even afraid that they're connected to a body. They're just there."
That's creepy.
That is creepy. I can see a lot of similarities to a lot of horror, even sci-fi horror with this.
Now, as far as like alien abductions go, this is, in my opinion, one of the most compelling. Is alien abduction a real thing? I think this is one of the more compelling ones that says maybe it is. And one of the biggest reasons for that was they desperately tried to stay out of the media. They did not want this getting out.
At the time, they kind of had to, because they were an interracial
couple in the early 60s. So, it did get out. But at the time, anyway, they tried to keep it between just them and the cops. And, anyway, let's going to dive into this. Let's see, and I mean, again, we're reading someone else's article here, so going to be using a lot of eyes and, you know, his opinions and things like that. Our opinions don't necessarily
our opinions don't necessarily matter, but we will interject with them every now and then if it is appropriate.
Well, I was going to say they don't necessarily reflect his opinions as well. So if we have something to kind of add to it or whatever, we'll jump in. But otherwise, just going to be going from this article. So here we go.
Here we go.
First, I don't believe aliens have visited Earth, or that ghosts haunted houses, or that demons possess people. I think if psychics could actually predict the future, they'd drive nicer cars.
That would be true.
Yeah. I don't think ventriloquist dummies are really alive. I think it's something the guy is doing with his voice. What I'm saying is that I think myself as a skeptic, but still find the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction story terrifying. Everything that we now think of as standard for alien abduction, the short gray aliens with big black eyes, the anal probing, the missing time, it all came from this one incident. The fact that there are two names involved is the key. One person's brain can kind of confuse itself in a number of ways, but how does that happen simultaneously to two people with no history of mental illness or wild claims? If it was a hoax, why did they spend years resisting every chance to go public with it? Seriously, what's going on here?
And I think he hits it really hard there, the author does, because he's trying to say that he wants to keep as open a mind of it as he can, but there are things that people see during that time and even now that are easily debunked. And as we've seen in the past, there are thousands of ghost videos on YouTube and they're easily debunked. There's hundreds of thousands of aliens and they're easily debunked. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. But the key thing is that missing time is something that really happens.
Yeah.
And they go back down to is a frantic pursuit of nothing, he goes on. This went down in 1961, and it, like he said earlier, it was the very first alien abduction story ever. Or it wasn't the first alien abduction. There was one that happened a few years earlier by a name from a man in Brazil, was taken, like we mentioned earlier, taken on a spacecraft, had sex with gorgeous women. Again, that was probably, cocaine-induced hallucinations, or he drank a sour coconut. I don't know. The point is that alien abductions just wasn't a thing that could happen to a person in 61. All of the alien abduction tropes that you see in X-Files, Close Encounters, and Independence Day, and parodies like South Park, this was the Betty and Barney Hill. That's where it all started from. That's where it originates. Barney was 39 and he was a mailman. Betty was a 41-year-old social worker. So at this point, they've got some pretty good, social standards that kind of lend credence to what they say. You're not really going to distrust a mailman, and a social worker is out there to give the truth, not an opinion.
Right. And again, they, being the interracial couple, I mean, coming out with an outlandish story, I mean, they're getting enough flack as it is just for being who they are.
Yeah.
But then, you come out with a crazy story, and, that's when guys with little, pillowcases over their heads start showing up at your house.
And burning crosses, and and that's never fun.
Right.
So it started at 10:30 p.m. on September 19th. They saw the light. And I mean the light in the sky, very typical of a UFO encounter. They described the object as bright, round, and silent while moving erratically. Thinking this looked more interesting than the Moose Rodeo or whatever they'd gone to see up in Canada, does Canada still exist, or does it not exist?
I thought Canada was a myth.
Okay, it may be a myth. Well, then this whole story's busted.
Oh, there you go. Ian, also check us out on Facebook.
They followed the object, stopping at various points, trying to take a closer look at the binoculars. And this is where it turns creepy. The object noticed them.
According to both Barney and Betty, the object swooped down and hovered over the car. Barney said he freaked the hell out and sped away.
Yeah!
At which point, several weird things occurred, including a loud beeping and a strange vibration in the car, followed by the couple's memories becoming hazy and jumbled. They would resume their drive and arrive home at dawn 2 or 3 hours later than they should have, as if they simply lost a chunk of time at some point. They lived in, was it New Hampshire, I think it was?
New Hampshire.
Coming back from Canada. And so Betty claimed that she discovered all sorts of physical evidence that after they got home, she had rips on her dress. Said that her dress was also covered in a fine pink powder. There were weird circular marks on the back of the car like something had been attached. And Barney found a ring of warts on his penis. Hashtag wart ring.
Oh, good Lord. Just Monday was bad and now Tuesday. Woohoo! Terrifying recovered memories. Like we said earlier, they actually, years down the road, went to regression therapy, hypnotherapy, which has allowed you to, even though you missed time, your brain doesn't miss anything. You just suppress those memories. And hypnosis, apparently, is one of the keys to allowing you to unlock that time.
I've done hypnosis before.
I have yet to be successfully hypnotized. The couple didn't immediately run to the papers or try to parlay their experience into a movie deal because, that's what would happen today.
Yeah.
Instead, Betty called the nearest Air Force base. Yeah. Aliens of L.A.?
Yeah. The alien housewives.
Kardashians of Mars? No. Betty called the nearest Air Force base to report what they saw. The government back then was actually tracking UFO encounters. Project Blue Book was still a very big thing back then. The official response was that she and her husband had gotten confused by the planet Jupiter rising through some swamp gas, and Bigfoot was nearby.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that a thing? Why is everyone? Well, it's Jupiter. It could be Venus, or look, if
you know what Jupiter looks like in the night sky?
It's
a
tiny.
dot.
It's a tiny dot. Venus isn't much bigger.
Yeah.
Note that Betty is doing all of this. Barney didn't seem to want to make a big deal out of it, of course, because the UFO gave him genital warts.
Wart ring.
It doesn't sound like alien abductions. It sounds like they went to a swingers party.
In a perfect circle around.
If that was me, I'd be demanding talk to the president, only to find out how long it would take for the nukes to reach Mars. That's really great. Whatever. Anyway, Betty went into the library. Let's nuke the planet. Went to the library and checked out a book, just one book about UFOs, trying to make some sense of what happened. Took her a week to read it, and she suddenly remembered the abduction. And that's where I have an issue with it. She read a book, so those memories were then planted. It's kind of like a suggestion.
The book was just about UFOs. It wasn't about
but
keep in mind there were no abductions up to this point.
It's not a stretch to make that jump, though. It's kind of like EVPs with ghosts.
Right.
You really don't hear anything until somebody says, well, I heard this, and all of a sudden the next time you hear it, yep, that's exactly what I heard.
Well, specifically, she started having a series of vivid dreams, walking through the woods with her husband, who seemed to be in a trance-like state, until they were led onto a spacecraft by short guys with grayish skin, dark eyes, and greasy black hair. Once on board, they did the typical alien medical exam. No anal probe for her. They instead used a sharp needle to stab her navel. They were then taken back to their car and resumed their drive. At this point, Barney still didn't remember anything, and he thought that Betty's dreams were just dreams, and was largely dismissive of the whole abduction story. They did try driving back out to the site to see if anything would trigger more memories, or if they could find evidence, or basically anything, to prove that they weren't going crazy. Otherwise, aside from a couple of meetings with local UFO study groups, they simply kept the whole thing to themselves. Again, the whole back then, this would have been a very bad thing just for being an interracial couple.
Yep.
It's not like today. This is back in the early 60s when, the whole...
the civil rights movement had really just infancy.
Still fairly new.
2 years went by until someone convinced them that hypnosis would help recall their memories, and the process relieved some of their anxieties, and this is where it gets kind of creepy. Barney was one heck of an actor, if he was an actor, the author goes on to say, and you can actually have the hypnosis section below on YouTube. You can look it up. We'll post a link to it.
Yeah.
So you can listen to it. Somewhere around the 20-minute mark, Barney reveals seeing the aliens for the first time, and he begins screaming hysterically. Is it a real scream, or is it's uncomfortable to listen to? But it's not that far-fetched to say he could have been acting on a suggestion.
Sure.
Look, Spoo and I don't agree on everything, and this is definitely one of those where we don't. And you remember not only the anal probe. Why is that a thing too?
Yeah.
I guess, but here's I'm going to interject this. Look at what we do to animals. We tag them. we test them, we draw their blood. So maybe we're on a zoo for grades, and that you're just making sure we're healthy. The cup was placed around his genitals to collect a sperm sample. Right where the ring of warts appeared, the hypnosis session occurred over several months, and the two of them were done separately, so they couldn't hear each other's stories. But their accounts were similar but not identical, and neither were identical to Betty's dreams. That's where I have the issue that Betty has influenced what Barney saw talking about it. Oh, I read this in a book, so this is the next step, and oh, Lord, there's his step. It's just my opinion. It matters a hill of beans.
I think it's entirely possible, too. I mean, I'm not saying that I totally 100% believe this story. I'm just saying, of all the alien abduction stories, 99% of which are complete crap, this is one of the more compelling ones.
There are really good fake alien abduction videos on YouTube. Trust me. I really don't think we will... And it's kind of hard to say because we do it with animals all the time. We tranquilize bears. We pull fish out of the water. It's not improbable, or not impossible that aliens do this. It's highly improbable.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't think the author then goes on to say that he doesn't think that either people were abducted by aliens or abducted at all. 2 years before the recording, they saw something strange and then fed off each other's panics, kind of like what I've alluded to. But it means the intervening period, the incredible detailed story of an intergalactic abduction was incepted fully into both of their minds. Insert your Beastie Boys intergalactic theme song here. Two separate people remembering the same terrifying sequence of events, none of which actually occurred. The implications of it are staggering.
Yeah.
Had they been closer into the dream versus what he saw versus what she saw, I'd lend a lot more credence to it. But
see, I think that the differences actually make it a little more compelling. I mean, if it was identical, then it would seem rehearsed. Versus, like, if we were to go out and do something, you're going to see things that I didn't see, and vice versa. So you're going to have slightly different.
They're going to be different, but it's just I don't know.
And to clarify, I'm not necessarily on a different page than you. I don't really think that we are. I mean, I'm not saying that this is a real thing whatsoever. I'm just saying, of the stories of alien abductions, I feel that this one's more compelling than a lot of the others. Do I believe that they were taken? I don't know.
I wasn't there.
Wasn't there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's kind of a cool, creepy story.
It is a cool, creepy story.
Oh, their normal lives ended on that night. And I've got like goosey bumps on my head, so it's like itchy. I don't know why. It would be a full 5 years after the incident before the Hills would ever agree to go public with their story, and that was only after details had leaked. A reporter got their hands on one of those talks they'd given to a local UFO group, and they started to get mocked by skeptics. Again, interracial couple. Mm-hmm. And that was the primary reason that they stay quiet. Barney being black, Betty being white. This was early to mid 1960s. There's still parts of the country where that could get you harassed, if not actually murdered. They were both active in civil rights movement and members of the NAACP, which is to say that A, they had every reason to avoid the spotlight, and B, had every reason to avoid doing or saying anything that would discredit them. Mm-hmm. It was apparently out of a desire to set the record straight that they cooperated with an author who would write a book about the case in 1966 under the terrible title, The Interrupted Journey. So they focus on the missing time instead of, the fact that they were abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
That would cement their place in UFO lore and the concept of the UFO abduction in the culture as a whole. There would be TV appearances, interviews, and a movie in 1975, one that Barney would never see since he suddenly died in '69 of a stroke at only 46. After the movie and the Steven Spielberg blockbuster about alien contact 2 years later, UFO abduction claims exploded, and they never slowed down.
Yeah, even to this day, they I mean, like we've said, you look on YouTube, UFO pictures, UFO videos. Some of them are obviously fake. Some of them are just off enough to say they're fake, and then some of them are like, you know, I don't know about that one. Betty would become even more unhinged, unfortunately, due to a brain tumor, as she claimed hundreds of more sightings throughout the years, becoming a staple in the circle of UFOs enthusiasts right up into the end. If you research the case, you either get true believers insisting a spacecraft showed up on nearby radars, which there's not any proof of, or skeptics devoting 100% of their energy to prove that aliens aren't real, and otherwise dismissing the story entirely. I agree with the author. They're both missing the point.
Yeah. That basically being that the whole world now shares this whole same delusion. Mm-hmm. Long time, let's see. The author says, long-time readers know I was raised in an evangelical Christian household. I now work in a godless industry and publish obscene horror.
Segue!
There are things I thought I knew about the creation of the universe and its moral underpinnings. Confident that if you flipped it over, you'd see a sticker outlining its terms of service, including strict rules about abortion, gay marriage, and communism. If these beliefs aren't true and moral, why do so many people adhere to them?
God's terms of service.
Yeah.
Make sure you click on that before the toss agreement.
Yeah, right. He says, well, let me answer my younger self this way. By 1987, there were over 300 UFO abduction cases on record. Now, that's from 1961 to 1987. Mm-hmm. Some of which involved up to 7 people, all reporting the same experience. Many reporting seeing those same grays. There had been thousands since. And as far as anybody knows, I don't even know if there's a database anymore.
I don't even think. MUFON would probably have the best one. And go look at them. MUFON does a lot of investigation into things like this, and they're actually really good.
Let's see. In 1966, before the Hill case hit the mainstream, only 7% of Americans believed an alien spacecraft had ever visited Earth. Today, more than half believe in that.
And I really think that this was before Apollo.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that now people do see as half of it is simply because we've been to another planet. We made it to space. We've established a presence in space. We're going to go further into space, and I think that's the biggest playground that people see in now. Is if we can do it, surely something light years away, more advanced than we are, can do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the author says the entire belief system is actually due to a street light. I don't agree to that part with the author. Right. I'm sorry. A street light is a street light, and it's
right there. I mean, it's not like it's hovering over the sky and moving over the car and moving around.
Yeah, he goes on to say writer James McDonald retraced Betty and Barney's steps, and at one point out, he sees a common light atop an observation tower on Canyon Mountain, and it appears in the exact spot the Hills described their UFO. It even actually seems to weave around the sky as you wind through the, at the time, completely dark mountain roads. I get it. I sometimes we get down in the hollers here where there are no lights, and you see its odd light in the distance. Yeah. But even back then, street lights had a certain type of illumination that was different from everything else.
Well, and then like you said, the winding roads, and to kind of add to it, they had driven over 1,200 miles.
18 hours, so they were obviously tired.
Right.
Which means your mind starts to see things, and I can see the connection. I'm not saying I can't.
They had planned on stopping for the night, decided to save some money, so they didn't stop.
Yep.
Nothing on the radio. Roads can mess with you. There's the whole black dog thing with truckers.
Yep.
You start getting sleep deprived out on the road. Road hypnosis is called.
Road hypnosis is a big deal.
Yes.
If you don't believe it's a thing, try driving through Kansas or Nebraska.
Yeah, right. Oh, God.
Yeah.
But as for the mysterious missing time, that's probably due to the couple badly overestimating how fast they could make it through those mountain roads at night, while failing to account for their frequent stops to try to find a place to get coffee and then later to track a non-existent UFO with binoculars. As far as the big-eyed alien grays that captured the public's imagination, it's very possible that Barney had got them from an episode of The Outer Limits, which had just aired 2 weeks before his hypnosis.
It's your
Hashtag hypnosis. His hypnosis session.
That is a very... I remember seeing this Outer Limits.
Fishman.
He's very fishman looking. The rest of an abduction scenario just got implanted to his brain by talking to his wife. Apparently you can hear a story enough that takes shape in your mind, things that occurred. Again, power of suggestion is an amazing thing. Hundreds of other people around the world then can remember the exact same thing just as vividly. If you tell a lie long enough and believe it that the lie is the truth, it becomes your truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying. A lamp, a sleepy couple, bad dreams, and a low-budget Twilight knockoff. Born from that is the concept that infects hundreds of millions of people across dozens of countries and lives in their mind as truth. The gray aliens.
Yeah. Now, you can shrug off and ask, how is this any different from all the other ones that come out there, like the demons, ghosts, witches, that people swear that they've been seeing for millennia? The difference is that this is the era of universal literacy and mass media, a time when we don't need to believe in magic because our machines are magic. When we don't need to fantasize about spacecraft because we can build the things.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, we've left the planet, so why couldn't someone else come to the planet?
Exactly.
The author says, what haunts me is the realization that none of that matters because some ideas survive specifically because they are outlandish and bizarre. The brain is somehow programmed to think something is true specifically because it's so unlikely to be true. The vaccines and chemtrails are making us sick. The local pizza shop is a rape dungeon. You know, all sorts of rumors and things like that. It's true because it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to the thing that humanity is great for. If it's something different from us, we don't like it.
Yeah.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky animals.
Mm-hmm.
Kill it with fire.
Yep. Yeah. That's a good point. Kill it with fire. Pitchforks on the monster on the windmill. There you go. If we dig into our most securely held cultural beliefs and follow them all the way down the roots, if what we find there is nothing at all, it goes back to the monster in the castle, the dungeon. What we can't see and identify, the spooky, scary noise at 2 a.m., forgetting to close a window so the curtains blow weirdly, that quick glance out of the corner of your eye to make a shadow. You know, now we can lump aliens into that.
Yeah.
Whether they're real or not doesn't matter. It's all...
Yeah, and that's what's great about us is, like, as much as we believe in a lot of these things, we are also two of the biggest skeptics you'll meet. We love to pick things apart and say, well, you know, if it's plausible or possible to debunk something, then you throw it out.
You throw it out.
And it's only the questions you have left after that that really dive into it. So what do you guys think? You know, do you think that they were really abducted, or do you think it's just a well thought out hoax? Drop that down in the comments below.
I can say that if they truly were abducted, it definitely puts a new spin on everything. Simply to the point that now it makes you wonder, do we now have cultural memories?
Right.
So they have a memory which passed on to somebody else that now passes generational memories.
A generational game of telephone, basically.
And it does. It's now instead of the grays, now we have, like, you can search them on YouTube, not to get off another tangent, but there are channels about hundreds of different aliens now that apparently visit Earth. But while you're there, and keep doing those YouTube things, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, check us out across our social media platforms, the Facebook, the Instagram, and the Twitter.
Yeah. And as long as you're doing that, go ahead and pick yourself up a show t-shirt.
And it's right here. You can go right here.
Yeah, that's our Facebook page. Just send us a private message on the page letting us know 3 things. Number 1, what size of shirt do you need? That's kind of important. You don't want to wear it like spandex or nothing. 2, what color of shirt do you want? Doesn't have to be black. It looks better on black. I'm just, in my opinion.
I like it on black.
But you can have whatever color you like. And also, what color of text would you like? So if you want, like, a purple shirt with, you know,
green text, you can have it.
You can have that.
Green shirt with purple text.
Yeah, you can do that. So yeah, let us know those 3 things. We'll get the process started for you. Short sleeve shirts are $20. Long sleeve shirts are $22. You can go ahead and pick up one of our hoodies as well for $25. They are very toasty warm. They are so comfy.
They're comfy, yes, they are.
So soft, so comfy.
Tomorrow is our favorite day of the week.
Oh, that's right.
And we will see you tomorrow.
Yes, we will.
Hey, Chapo, don't go anywhere. I've got a bottle of Russian Clips of the Day.
Sweet. Hey guys, thanks for watching that video. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if you liked what you see, go ahead and click on our faces to go ahead and subscribe to get all of our Monday through Friday stuff.
Indeed, and here's a couple of links down below that you can follow to watch more shows like it. Tons of great content right here at Scallywag Productions. We'll see you tomorrow.